Hello, my name is Elaine Roberts. Welcome to my oral comps video. In this clip, I am facilitating a training session that I developed for the teachers of Harrisonburg-Rockingham Child Daycare Center on February 20th, 2012. This segment is part of a 2-hour training on professional etiquette. In this short clip, the learners are being asked to synthesize content that has just been presented and then apply it to themselves by developing a personal definition of professional etiquette. During the original training session, I experienced a number of technical difficulties which prohibited the training session. The second half of this DVD provides viewers with a clip from a mock session of the professional etiquette training. The purpose of this clip is to display how the training would have looked without the technical errors, but more on that later. For now, let's go ahead and get started. Image, behavior, and attitude. On the next page of your packet, you'll see that this same slide should be up there. How do you define professional etiquette for yourself? Because like we talked about, it's not necessarily being in the office and wearing a suit and tie. It's really more personal for you all as a group and for you as an individual. So I just want you all to just take a minute and define what professional etiquette looks like or is for you. And you don't have to use this, but I put a prompt there to kind of if you're having trouble getting started. So professional etiquette at daycare is what it looks like. And just try to think about some of the things we talked about. And let's go with like 5 minutes, and then you all can write them down and kind of share your tables if you want. Everyone feels like they had a stroke of genius. Just give you guys a couple minutes to do that. As previously mentioned, the next segment is from a mock training filmed on February 21st, 2012, with student assistants playing the role of daycare teachers. In this clip, I am presenting new content utilizing elaboration theory by providing learners with larger concepts, then expanding on them and providing examples, and finally providing synthesis as well as encouraging individual summary. Despite the technical errors, it was a successful experience for me as an HRD professional to go through the entire process of analyzing, designing, developing, and implementing a learning intervention for a client. And I felt very confident in the results of my training. So let's go ahead and take a look at the mock session. Okay, so let's just take a minute and brainstorm some ideas about professional etiquette. So when you guys hear professional etiquette, what do you think of? You can just shout out.
Respect.
Okay.
Manners.
Okay.
Navy dress code, your attire.
Anything else? Okay. Good. That's a good list. It's flying off there. All right. So let's take a look at some formal definitions of professional etiquette. So the first one, the code of ethical behavior regarding professional practice or action among the members of a profession in their dealings with each other. So what's really important about this is this dealings with each other and among members part, because I think sometimes professional etiquette can be difficult to put in a context like a daycare, because you guys work in an environment where there's babies running around puking on people and screaming and crying, and wearing a suit and tie or 5-inch heels is not appropriate. So understanding how you all deal with each other and what that means for your behavior. The second definition, conventional requirements as to social behavior, proprieties of conduct is established in any class or community for any reason. So again, it's important to remember that some of these things may be rules, but other ones are just sort of the norms or the social engagement rules that you all set up as a group together. Any questions about that? So all of these words, respect, manners, attire, dress code, we're going to touch on all of that today because, perfect, you already know what professional etiquette is. We're just going to remind you. So there are three areas that sort of attribute to professional etiquette as a whole, and I broke them down into professional image, behavior, and attitude, and we're going to go through all 3 of those. So professional image. So when y'all hear professional image, what does that mean to you?
dressing appropriately, like for the daycare center? You said before, no heels, wearing like comfortable clothes, but still professional.
Good. Okay, dressing appropriately.
Acting appropriately.
Yeah, okay. Behavior.
As well as your demeanor.
Demeanor. Good. Well, those are all correct answers, and you're going to see that all of this sort of overlaps. But professional image is defined as a set of qualities and characteristics that represent perceptions of your competence and character as judged by others. So what's important here is to remember that this is the message you're sending to other people. So you're sending it, and then they're receiving it, and it doesn't mean they're understanding the way you mean it to be. So you have to just be really aware of what the things that you're doing, saying, etc. are, how others may be taking them. So, as you all said, it's behavior, it's dress, it's attitude, it's your total package. So just being conscious and aware of, your body language and your voice and all of those things in one and what that message says to people. So next one's professional behavior. Now there's a reason I have a picture of a monkey on my head in this slide. I wanted to put that there because in this area, modeling, which is something that's really important for all daycare teachers, you're constantly modeling appropriate behaviors and things like that for the children, but to remember that modeling is just as important for adults and for each other. So like we talked about, you created a community of norms, modeling is one of the ways you do that. So monkey see, monkey do is what I wanted you to remember when it comes to professional behavior. Plus that monkey's really cute, and I look ridiculous. So some examples of professional behavior. Punctuality, I wanted to talk about that one, and that's not just being at work on time or something like that, but it's also being able to follow through on things in a timely manner that you say you're going to do if it's projects or something like that. Just sort of being reliable, and that's going to show your coworkers, the more punctual, it's going to show your coworkers that you are more reliable, and then hopefully your working relationship will be a little bit better. Appropriate use of cell phones and technology. In some workplaces, this is sort of a no phones kind of policy. In daycare, I know it's a little different because there are 2 buildings, and you're often texting and using your phones to communicate with Dolores and each other. But just being aware that sometimes maybe it's not the most appropriate time to take that phone call, or maybe I should wait till they're at nap time and go outside and take that text, or just making sure you're conscious of when you're using it, making sure it's appropriate. Engaging in the children. Put that under here, not to suggest that you all don't engage the children, because you're all very committed teachers and you're great teachers. But again, this is just that idea of your behavior impacting them. So being sure you're asking good questions and talking with them, sitting with them at lunch and doing those kinds of things. And the last one, eating habits. So this is going to be one of those more rule type things, governing your behavior. I know, for example, that you all have a rule that when you bring in outside food, you need to make sure that you take all the wrappers and cups that have like McDonald's logos or Chick-fil-A and throw those away, and be sure you put it on a plate. Because nutrition is something that you all focus on a lot, and it's really important in teaching the kids how to eat right, and having them see you eating on a plate versus out of a box or a bag, and sitting with them is really important. So a professional behavior, really just remembering, again, that message, but monkey see, monkey do. So if you're doing what's right, the others around you are more willing to do that as well. Does that make sense? So I wanted to talk about a little bit more about behavior because of the sort of difficult situation physically that's set up at the daycare with 2 buildings. I know that resources are already kind of strained, and so I want to talk a little bit about being a good workplace citizen, which is, I thought it was really cute and funny, but you take it for what it is. So when being a good workplace citizen, it's all about space sharing, which is really important. So here are a couple of ideas that I had of what might make a good workplace citizen. So replacing supplies. So if you use the end of something or if you know it's almost out, being sure that you replace it. I hate when someone at my house eats all but one bite of cereal and puts the box back. You know, it's really irritating. So if you try to make sure that you know someone's going to come behind you, so replace it or put it back where it needs to be, then when they get there, it's less likely to cause any kind of issue or frustration in their day. Using appropriate time for preparing. And I know you all don't have necessarily a formal planning time, but you use the nap time for the kids as you're planning. So just making sure that you're using that time appropriately, just to be sure you're organized and you know what's coming next and where you need to be and who you need to be in touch with. It doesn't mean you have to have a checklist and know that all the time, but just trying to be more aware of what's coming next. Lending a hand, that one's relatively obvious, but I know that with like 23 2-year-olds running around, I would not be lending anyone a hand. I would be there, and it's hard when you have all that responsibility to worry about somebody else's kids, but just trying to be cognizant of if someone else's kid is flying off the walls somewhere, or you can tell they need help with something. Just trying to be aware of it as much as possible, and asking for help and things like that. And the last one, communicate. So we already talked a little bit about communication, but with that, I was thinking that particularly leaving notes, since you all have shift changes, which is a hard thing for any organization to deal with, but being sure to leave good notes for each other and just doing your best to communicate with the teacher that sees the parents in the morning and the teacher that sees them in the evening. Do you all have any other suggestions, ideas? Sound good?
Sounds good.
So the last part of this is that we can become better workplace citizens by making small adjustments, and they can make a huge difference. So just remembering, it's not that you have to do all of this and blow it up as big as possible, but that little differences can have a big effect. So I wanted, before we go on, in your packet you'll see on the second page a list of some of these behaviors, and I wanted you to take just a minute and think about some small ways that maybe you could be a better workplace citizen, and just write those down. You don't have to share them, so let's just take a minute and do that. Okay, great. So the last piece of professional etiquette that we're going to talk about is going to be professional attitude, which you mentioned demeanor, and that's exactly what professional attitude is. It's your manner, your disposition, feeling, position, etc. regarding a person or a thing. It's your tendency or orientation, especially of the mind, or the position or posture of your body appropriate to or expressive of an action or emotion. And you all mentioned demeanor and how you are talking to people, and that's exactly what this is. Again, it's your attitude is going to affect those around you. So I know we had some examples before of talking about like stomping around or hunching your shoulders or things like that. So I just wanted you all to think about what are some other ways that show your attitude, that people will see or get some sort of message. Maybe you're doing it, maybe not.
Crossed arms.
Crossed arms. Good.
The tone you use when you talk to other people.
Maybe your hand gestures.
Hand gestures. Great. So those are all going to be things that just try to be more aware again of how you're standing or how you're speaking to people. And I wanted to show you all a little video about choosing your attitude, because every day is not the perfect day, where things go exactly how you plan them to go. And when you come to work, you know, you're tired and burnt out or whatever, but you have the option to take a minute before you come into work and just take a deep breath and say, I'm going to have a positive attitude. Doesn't mean you have to be the bubbliest person in the world, but just I'm gonna leave that at the door and come in and do my job and be positive about it. So let's take a look at this video.
Thank you for watching.